Welcome to Crown Church Orlando, where we're transforming followers into leaders. We're so thankful that you've tuned into the broadcast. We pray the message you hear pushes you one step closer into your purpose and accomplishing your destiny. And now, let's go into the message.
Good morning, Transformers. Woo, it is so good to see all of you. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that like button, click the share button. You are in for a treat this morning as we conclude the 2020 Summer Relationship Series. I'm joined by a dynamic panel of ladies. And we're going to come before you this morning to discuss, just to share our hearts and to discuss the four environments that every woman needs to be successful as presented by Pastor Duma. So ladies, come on in, join me into this conversation, and let's go ahead and get things started. The men did an amazing job discussing their environments, but today, ladies, it's our turn. It's our turn to share what we got from this past relationship series. So quick introductions. My name is Kelda Sr., and I have been a member of Crown Church, or a transformer, as we like to call ourselves, for about 2.5 years. Jenica?
Hi, my name is Jenica Goffin. I have been married for going on 4 years. I am a teacher, and I've been a transformer since the beginning of Crown Church.
Awesome. Asia?
Hi, everyone. My name is Asia. I've been a transformer for about 2 years now. I am a medical device rep, and originally from Connecticut.
Miss Gwen?
Good morning, Crown ladies, and good morning, Crown family. So my name is Gwen, or Gwendolyn, and my family knows me as Felicia, so don't say bye, Felicia. It's not cute. But I have been a transformer where we transform followers into leaders for about 2 years, and I have been married for approximately 21 years. So it's going to be good today.
Yes, awesome. So everyone, we'll each be speaking from our own different perspectives. We have women on the panel who are married, and women like myself who are unmarried. So we're going to just be diving into the different environments that every woman needs to be successful. And I think for me, ladies, kind of kicking off the conversation, this particular series this summer really stood out to me because it caused a level of introspection, right? I think oftentimes when we hear conversations about relationships, it's about what everybody else around us needs to be doing. But this particular series really challenged me to look more internally and really sort of do internal work, because that's really how we have successful relationships anyway, right? Like the best way to have successful relationships is to be our best selves. So I really enjoyed this particular series, and I'm really excited to kind of delve a little bit deeper into the 4 environments that Pastor presented about how women can be successful. So he talked about security, socialness, strategy, and serenity as the 4 environments. And ladies, I have to say, when he came out the gate for us talking about security, I was like, he gets it, right? Like he gets it. Him and the Holy Spirit have been doing some work, because security is so important for us at any stage of our life, at any stage of womanhood, wifehood, motherhood. Feeling secure is so essential. So Jen, I kind of want to get your thoughts on security. You are a wife. You are a brand new mom to your beautiful daughter, Araya. And I'm sure the idea of security has certainly evolved for you from just being a single woman to then transitioning to being a wife, and now being a wife and a mom. Tell us about how important security is for you now.
Security is everything. And it's crazy because when I first became married, security is more so financial and emotional security. Like I wanted to make sure I was secure in our relationship as a, newlywed couple. And I also wanted to make sure that we weren't going to be out there in the street homeless. So that was like my main focus. Like, we need to have finances and we need to make sure that our relationship is good. But now being a mother, all of that stuff has magnified. So security, now even our safety, especially with everything that's going on in the world right now, has become very important to us. So it's just adding on to those little elements of security that's been happening for me.
Yeah, that's a good point. And, Gwen, you've been in the game longer than any of us. So talk to us about how
Right.
your need for an environment of security has evolved over the years.
Right. Well, it has evolved because the one thing is coming from a relationship of being single for so long and then having to do your own security and then having to come alongside someone else, you have to learn how to let go and let that security that's there become and blossom. So in that, I had to not, for lack of a better term, man up the relationship when the man was already there. So letting him do his part and being secure in who he is, and then also backing that up, learning how to step back and let him do what he was called to do in protecting us and providing for us. And, whether it's home, taking care of the home, taking care of the car, taking care of my yard, because I didn't want to cut no more grass. I'm gonna be real. These nails don't need to cut grass.
Right.
So I've learned how to, coming from single and having to do all of that and be the single parent, and then to let someone else step in that role and let go and not bombard them.
Ms. Gwen, that's such an important point. And I think, and ladies, we're also going to be giving away some free game here to the fellas that are watching. Ms. Gwen, you made a really important point about letting the man, sort of activate in his role. And really the best way for men to sort of activate their role is to secure the women in their life, right? Because when a woman feels secure, we're able to really rest in our femininity, right? And we're able to really elevate and activate the power of our femininity because we know we don't have to juggle everything. We know we don't have everything on our shoulders. We're able to sort of rest in the power of our femininity. So it really is in the man's best interest to make sure that the women in their life feel safe and feel secure. And what they get in return, it's out of this world. We as women, we go hard for men anyway. Just imagine how much harder we'll go for men when, if we feel secure and safe around them and in relationships with them. Women on the front lines of the protests, they're leading Black Lives Matter. Like, we go hard for men, even when their level of going hardness for us is, may or may not be lackluster. It's just in our nature. We're still going to go hard. So fellas, if you really want to see the level of your masculinity to the next degree, secure the women in your life. And I will assure you, you will receive all of the benefits of that security. So Aisha, give me your thoughts on security, or what that particular topic of security means to you as a woman, but also as a wife.
I think, when we're younger, we really don't focus on security because we do it ourselves, especially women. As women, there's so many things that we cover, before we get married. So by the time we do get married, it's kind of like, okay, I'm handing off some things to you. So I really want to make sure that you got it. And once they get it, or, you guys come to an agreement that, I feel secure in you to take on certain roles, to do certain things, then it opens, you up as a woman to do more, to not stress, to handle other tasks in the marriage. And, even for single people, it is hard to kind of let things go. Yeah. So I think, that is something that is definitely as women, we need to work on, is letting go and letting God, and, being secure in who we are, but also trusting the men enough that they, we can give them some of that responsibility as well.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, Aisha. And it actually sort of ties in perfectly to the second environment that Pastor Duma presented, which is socialness. He really talked about the fact that we really do need a tribe as humans, but specifically as women, we really do need a tribe in order to really see all the true benefits of our lives. But there is a balance that we have to strike, right? Like if we are in relationships with our partners or our husbands, they do have an obligation to fulfill a certain sense of security for us, right? But it really all should not be placed on them, right? Like that is way too much responsibility to give to another human being to like, it's your responsibility to make sure I'm good in every single aspect of my existence. No, that is not the role of another human being, right? Right. So that's where God comes in, right? He is really our source of everything. And he adds other humans in our lives to complement and add value to our lives. So Ms. Gwen, I want to hear your perspective on, how do you strike that balance? How do you ensure that the natural relationships in your life fulfill their roles while still ensuring that you have that balance of making sure that you know that God is your ultimate source?
Right. So doing that, you have to first realize, what is it that you're looking for? What is it that you want? Your relationship with God, of course, you want that to be primary, but he shows you in his word how to strike those balances, how to come alongside and let people be who they are. Let them show you their character. Let them show you who they are. And then you figure out what it is you need to give and what it is you can receive from. And he's there to show us that, because he is the ultimate giver and receiver, right? So learning how to come alongside in those settings with people and recognizing who they are, and then not being in competition and not being concerned about where you rate. That's not important. The important balance is, what do they add? What can you add? And what can you grow together? And so with the Lord, he always adds to us. He never subtracts, other than the things he needs to prune away from us that we need to grow away from. But he always adds great love and balance, which shows us how to, again, give out that great love and balance. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That's such an important point too, because I think the other thing that we have to remember is that, we really are just trying to figure life out individually, right? Like we're all like sort of navigating through life with childhood stuff and, past relationship stuff. Like we're all really just navigating through life with our own stuff. And God's grace is what keeps us and helps us grow and progress. But it really isn't another person's responsibility to come in and sweep in and save the day. It's like, no, girl, you save yourself, and God will help you navigate the spaces that you need to navigate in order to be successful. So that way, when you are in a relationship, you're not a burden on somebody. A friend of mine who is, she's a Christian woman, a woman of God, and she's also a relationship therapist. She talks about it in the way of reminding us that marriage and relationships are difficult by themselves, right? And now in 2020, we have all of these competing interests of social media, an abundance of options for everybody. So it's difficult. We shouldn't add to that level of difficulty by coming into a marriage or coming into a relationship like, oh, okay, here's all my stuff. Here's all of it right here. Help me do something with all of this. No, that's no one's responsibility. So that's why having that balance and striking that balance and knowing your true source is so important, and having that tribe. So Aisha, I kind of want to get your thoughts on the environment of socialness. When we talk about having a tribe and having other people around us to support us, how have other relationships, aside from your husband, benefited you, whether, childhood girlfriends or other friendships in your life, coworkers? How have your alliances or other relationships with other people added value to your life as a woman?
Well, just, from high school, it's like, I think you start off with like 50 million friends. You want to friend everyone. You want to be social. You're a social butterfly. But as you get older, you find that, some of those relationships kind of dwindle away. And it could be just from, you guys don't have the same goals. Distance as well. I know I'm from Connecticut and I moved to Florida, so I lost a lot of those relationships. But as you get older, you really start to target those people that are going to be there for the long run. So social relationships have been very important to me, inspiring growth, productivity, finding advisors that can help me in my career, finding those alliances that are gonna help my marriage, and to help me move forward in life. Because we don't always have this thing figured out. We're kind of doing it on a day-to-day basis and, praying that God will help us get through it. But God does put those certain people in your life that are going to help you get through it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with Asia on that, because you have to learn along the way. As Asia said, you start off with 50 million friends, but then you have to will it down and strike a balance and look at who's really there to add value to your life, and who you're there to also support, because it's a two-way street.
Absolutely.
And if you're always the giver, and you never allow, because you have to allow people to give to you, then that can be an issue. And then where's that balance, right, Ms. Kelda?
Yeah, I totally agree. Jen, what about you? How have the other social relationships in your life evolved and added value to your life over the years?
They've been a lifeline. Like,
Ooh,
I
wow.
know emotionally, especially in the quarantine type setting, like in the beginning stages, like I just dumped everything on Eric. Poor Eric, I love him, but I would dump
We love you,
everything on
Eric.
him. I'm like, you need to be my best friend, you need to be my girlfriend, you need to be everything. And what I realized is that I was draining him.
Oh
So like
gosh.
doing the Zoom calls with different groups of friends and just texting each other, calling each other, and just really reaching out, and actually reaching out to other members of family, like, grandparents that you wouldn't really talk to on the regular because you were too busy. But now that we're home, it's just made everything more clear to me as to how important all these relationships are into making me who I am. So it's just very important to just make sure that we're nurturing all these different relationships, because they bring different things to the table.
Yeah, that's a really important point, Jenica, about nurturing those relationships, because you never know when you're going to need those relationships in a different stage in life. And I think sometimes we as women, we get this like really bad rap, which really frustrates me sometimes, about being like super competitive. And I sort of like shun that, because I think as human beings, we're competitive with each other. Men are just as competitive as women are. They're competitive about their money, about the woman on their arm, like they're just as competitive as women, because I think it's human nature. I also think that competition can be a good thing and a bad thing, right? Like you can use a competitive nature as a positive thing or a negative thing. So I kind of want to get y'all's like insight on what can we as women do to better support each other in whatever stage of life that we is. Like, how can we strengthen those social bonds so that we do have strong alliances and advisors in our life? Ms. Gwen, I'd love to get your insight on that first.
Right. So what I try to do is allow people to be who they are. See them for who they are, and don't be so quick to judge or throw away. You have to give time for folks to develop and realize I had to start somewhere too. That I wasn't who I am now. That had to come over time. So being able to allow folks to be who they are and accept them and receive them for who they are, just like Christ told us, come as you are, I receive you for who you are.
Right.
And then he grows us, right?
Right.
So then he grows us. We're not automatically the full-grown apple tree, the full-grown cherry blossom. We were, once that little seed in the ground, or that weed, if we can be honest, out in the world. And then we had to develop it over time. So you have to allow that. What do you think, Miss Asia?
Well, Miss Gwen, you did make a really good point. And I want to point out something that Pastor Dumas said actually in the series. He said, when you know who you are, you eliminate your competition. And, we're all women just trying to do this thing. And, you really need women that are going to build you up. So let's build each other up. Let's put each other in the right direction. We should not be tearing each other down, because none of us have the right answer. We're doing this thing on a day-to-day basis. And, why do we have competition? It's not really comparing like apples to apples and oranges to oranges, because we all do something different. We all have different experiences.
Exactly.
So something that I go through today, you might go through tomorrow. It's just like, okay, let's share in that, but we all have different experiences.
And it's also important to realize that there's a difference when we're dealing with our different relationships, especially with other women, that just because someone isn't agreeing with what you're doing or agreeing with what you're saying doesn't mean that they are criticizing you in a negative way. There's a difference between constructive criticism and just that catty stuff, just to be petty. There's a difference, because if we were truly being friends and we're trying to help each other grow, you're going to have to be real with people. You're going to have to tell people things that they don't like. And
exactly,
that's hard. But to me, that's the real friendships in my life. The people who can tell me, Jen, you got something in your eye, you got a booger, those types of stuff. Or you need to tighten up. I noticed that you're eating unhealthy foods. Like, you need to do better for yourself. And we need to push each other without considering it, being, catty or petty or anything like that.
Yeah. That's I love that. Like, Jenica, your point about having other women around you who love you enough, right, to point out to you, hey, girl, you slipping in this area, to kind of just as a wake up call, as a reminder. And I think, for me, coming from the perspective of an unmarried woman, it's like, they're often like, oh my gosh, you're unmarried in your 30s, how are you dealing with that? Like, it's some kind of like plague or, some kind of disease that we're walking around with unmarried in your 30s. So I think for us too, it's even more important to have the right mindset, right? Like, and I love, it's actually a scripture in Second Corinthians that talks about there is an abundance. Like, you have everything you need. You are everything that you need. God has already given you and equipped you with everything that you need. So shifting that mindset to one away from lack. There's not enough men. There can only be one woman in this role. There's only one Black woman allowed in this role. Shifting that mindset to lack and limits into more of there's plenty of options. There's plenty of potential life partners and potential career partners. There's plenty of clients for all the entrepreneur women to go around. Shifting that mindset from one of there's not enough to there's more than enough will certainly kind of make an impact on that like competitive nature that sometimes women are often saddled with. So Aisha, to kind of close out the topic of socialness, how have the other relationships in your life beyond your friendships added value? Maybe like coworkers or older women in your life who served as maybe those advisors, right? If you had a heart to hear from them, did those advisors and those mentors, did they add value to your life?
Definitely. I can say my mom and my mother-in-law are like the biggest influencers in my life, just from experiences that they've went through, helping me on a daily basis, giving me feedback on what I'm doing, because, they really see what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis and how I'm interacting with people. So it's good to have them in my life. Also having a great pastor. I love you, Pastor Emma. She's always there to, lend a ear when I need help in my marriage, or those personal relationships as well. So it's good to get feedback from people that have been doing something, longer than you have.
Yeah, for sure. That's so important to hear from people who've been doing things longer than you have. And I think that ties in perfectly to the third strategy that Pastor Duma presented, or the third environment he presented, which is strategy. And strategy,
Right.
this one really stood out to me. I really like this particular environment because, again, it caused that introspectiveness to happen, right? So with strategy, he talked about that women, we need a plan and we need space and time away from all of our life's obligations to come up with a plan. And I think when he presented strategy, the first thing I thought about, y'all, was, you know, how like the older women back in the day, either your mom or your grandma always was like, you know, make sure you have, you know, your plan, you had your separate account with some money in it, you know, so if you need to make
Right.
moves real quick, you know, that, I don't know why, but that was literally the first thing I thought about when he presented strategy. But upon, you know, listening a little bit further, there's definitely more layers to it. It's really just about having a plan of action for any area of your life. So Ms. Gwen, I want to get your thoughts on, you know,
Right.
how do you cultivate a plan and a strategy for every area of your life? And then how do you know when it's time to pivot and switch up that strategy?
Well, if I'm being transparent, having a strategy and a plan for every area of my life was a development, and it's still an ongoing thing, because again, you don't know what's going to happen. But having that plan is, again, I watch from two strong women: my grandmother, who is in heaven, of course, with the Lord, and my mom, Gladys Mackey, who would do things along the way and tell me along the way. She always told me early on what her mistakes were. And that helped me to form strategies of what not to do and how to prepare moving forward. And then when I saw that something wasn't working, I had to reevaluate self and look at, okay, well, what was I doing wrong in this? Where did I step off the track? And then course correct. You know, you have to self-evaluate too. And that was some of the beautiful things that Pastor Duma talked about, is that we have to be able to recognize where we are and what we're doing. So again, developing those strategies along the way, and then learning when that isn't working, you stop doing it. Okay, it shouldn't take you 20 times to figure out that's the wrong direction. If your GPS says make a U-turn, your life should be telling you make a U-turn. That's the wrong direction.
Yeah.
So coming along like that, learning on the way, and then recognizing those triggers that tell you this is the wrong direction.
And just to piggyback off of what Ms. Gwen said, I think it's very important for us to be flexible, because I noticed at different stages of my life, the strategy had to change. Like, and it came with maturity. Like the strategy that I had in my late teens, early 20s as a single woman isn't the same strategy that I have now as a married mom. So we also have to remember to be flexible as we go through different stages of our life, and be able to make sure that we're in position to pivot if we need to.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good.
Yeah, that's a great point, Jenica. Great point.
Yeah. Aisha, what do you think? Like, how have you had to switch up or change up your plan of action or strategy, maybe even in this time during the pandemic, right? Like this time is certainly unprecedented for all of us. How have you had to, kind of switch up your strategy?
Well, in this pandemic, it's like, you think you're going to just continue to work and, have those vacations and, get that serenity that you need. The pastor.
Yeah.
But with COVID, a lot of things have changed up. The stores are closed. You can't really go on vacation. Unfortunately, my grandmother passed in earlier this year, and I couldn't even attend the funeral. So I had like certain things that I wanted to do this year that I couldn't do. So like Ms. Gwen and Jenica said, you just have to be flexible, and you can't get too frustrated about something that you couldn't do. Because a lot of the times we get hung up on something. We're like, okay, I was supposed to do this. It didn't happen. So now what do I do? It's like, okay, well, what can we do now? What's my plan B? What other options are there out there? And that's where it's really good to have that support system, just so you can bounce some ideas off of someone else and have somebody else hold you accountable and say, okay, you weren't doing this, but what's your plan B? How can we move forward and not get stuck?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Well, I agree with that, because not only just plan B, but C, D, E, F, and G. I mean, let's just be real. You know, your plan B looked good on paper, it sounded good in your head, and then you went to execute it in real life, and plan B was not a good plan. So again, with the strategy, like you said, like you both said, Miss Asia and Miss Jenica, you have to have people in your life that will say to you, who truly care about you, what are you doing, and hold you accountable. Are you still doing, you said you wanted to do, go into nursing. What are you doing about that?
Wow.
Are you still
Yeah.
pursuing that? Because those true circles of friends, or those true relationships that will help guide you along the way. Even your significant other, if it's your spouse, he's asking you. You said you wanted to do
Mm,
this, but what are you doing? I don't see you doing that. What are you doing? Is that still a thing you want to do? And checking in with you in that wise. And so for our brothers out there, if you've heard your mate say to you, she shares some things about what her dreams and what she wants to do, right? Check on that. Help her with that strategy, because that will build your relationship even stronger. Goes back to security. That go, that builds that even stronger, and that's that more, and even more supportive when you can come alongside us and say, okay, you said you wanted to do this. How can, one, what are you doing, and two, how can I help you, and three, who do you need to talk to get the help to do that, and look at it that way. What do you think, Ms.
wow.
Kelda?
Yeah, I completely agree, Miss Gwen. And I think for me, strategy really kind of stands out as an important environment because I'm always thinking about 50 or and 60-year-old Kelda. Like I'm always thinking about her. Like, what does she need? What is she going to want? And is she going to be proud with 33-year-old Kelda? Like, is she gonna be like, girl, what were you thinking? Or is she going to be like, yes, thank you. Thank you for making certain decisions and certain moves and having a certain strategy to put me in this position today. So I think
Yeah.
for me, strategy is so important because I am always thinking about future me and where I'm going to be and what I'm going to require and what I'm going to want. And Jenica, I'd love to hear your thoughts too on like as a mom, like have you experienced having to completely like wipe your old strategy clean and start anew, or have you found that you just had to kind of like build on what you already knew you wanted for your life?
I realized that I had to build on what I wanted for my life, but now that I have this young lady that I have to cultivate and help her to become the woman that she's meant to be, that God put her on this earth to be, I have to change my mindset as well. Like there's certain habits that I have that I know she's going to be looking at me, and I don't want her to have to deal with those same things. So the strategy
Right.
has to change. So I have the strategy for myself, but I have to think about her and I have to think about her future. So it's definitely ever evolving because
Yeah.
one minute I'm like, even down to like little things in her newborn stage, like, yes, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. She's only going to take 1 hour naps. I realized that I got to be flexible because she's telling me like, this is not what we're going to do actually. It's just always like flexibility. Every time I think strategy, I think flexibility because
Mm.
you can plan everything down to the T with your strategy, but life doesn't work that way. So you just got to be flexible.
Ooh, that is so good. Flexibility is key. And I think for me, like what I've sort of benefited from about being flexible is that in your flexibility and when you're not rigid, God will direct you and he'll guide you through, those times of uncertainty. Like he'll help you with your strategy, right? Like there's been so many times, he's like, you need to start amplifying your job search. Little did I know that particular position was going to be cut or defunded, or like you need to move this way, you need to join this organization, or you need to volunteer your time here or serve here or cut a deal with this person for your services because they're going to refer you to another higher paying client on the other side. Like he will really help you if you're open to listening to him and allowing him to activate his ideas and his plan in your strategy. He really will help you navigate certain environments that you're just like, I don't know what to do. I'm not sure. He really will help you navigate. And that's been the biggest thing for me, particularly as an unmarried woman, having that strategy to be like, also in my singleness, what is my strategy for my singleness? Am I just going to sit here and wait for somebody to come knock on the door and sweep me off my feet and come rescue me as my knight in shining armor? That might not be the best strategy, Kelda. Like, you should be really amplifying and becoming your best self during this time, whether it's fitness, finances, health and wellness, additional family time, learning new skills. Maximizing your time is when you're single. For my single ladies, is certainly the best way to have a great strategy. So this fourth environment that Pastor presented was one of serenity, ladies. Serenity. This is something that we definitely all certainly need. And I think the one thing that stood out with this particular environment, Pastor Duman, he came right out the gate and he acknowledged, he said he had this revelation. He was like, I had a revelation that women are tired. And I said,
really?
Wow.
Yes.
What a revelation. Yes, Pastor Duma and the men in our lives, we are tired. Okay?
Not tired, but tired.
We are juggling so much. So, Aisha, I want to hear from you about, like, what does the term serenity mean for you?
Well, serenity for me has changed over time. Sometimes it could mean, just making sure that I have everything in my house under control. Because, as women, we were formed in the garden. So we like order. So a lot of that means just like, is the house clean? Does my husband have what he needs? Am I set for work? And that way I'm already set up to be in like a serene environment because I don't have to stress about things here and there. But also, it also means taking time out for myself and making sure that I have a time where I can just kind of disconnect from the world, put my cell phone down and just making sure that I'm in a calm environment. So I like to go to the spa. I like to get facials. I like to spend time with my girlfriends where I can just kind of sit down and just, hash out things and just life issues. But it is very important as women that we do that and we take time and we set aside, we actually plan to set aside time in our schedules to make sure that we have that time to disconnect.
Yeah, I can agree because what you were saying, Ms. Asia, if nothing else, this pandemic has shown, has uncovered a lot of things about busyness.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Busyness, what that is.
Mm-hmm.
And having opportunity to now step back and say, okay, as you said, I need to unplug. But one of the things he mentioned is, where are you? Like, I like having some silence because we have so much noise. Things coming in sometimes it's hard to filter out and be able to just get silent, get quiet. And I just mean get quiet in your spirit, quiet in your mind. Even the Lord went away privately to pray. He got away from all the people that were following him. He even got away from, the 12 that were there constantly pulling and tugging for some quiet time. And so we have to recognize again that we need that time to get quiet, to have some silence. Solitude isn't loneliness, isn't, isolation, isn't pushing people away, but it's a time to get centered and to refocus and to repurpose so you can come back and do what you are purposed to do. Right, Ms. Jenica, what do you think? Because you have a little one and that probably is precious time for you, baby, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So I finally got her on this schedule. So my serenity, that time for me, I'm a night owl. So I'm going to sleep at 2, 3 a.m. And Eric thinks it's the craziest thing. Like, why are you going to sleep so late? And part of it is that's the one time of the day where I'm not a mom. I'm not a wife. Everyone's asleep. I'm just Jen. So I'm trying on clothes. I'm playing with makeup. I'm dancing in the house, just doing those crazy things that I used to do when I was younger. And it's just one of those things where you got to get to know yourself because serenity, when we think serenity, we think spa, we think, you got the cucumbers on your eyes. But for some people, it may just be having a solo dance party in your living room while everyone's asleep, just sitting there. So just making sure that you're getting to know yourself as who you are, because we get wrapped up in different titles as well. And I struggled with that when I got married, and I struggled with that when I became a mom. I became so wrapped into, okay, this role, that I forgot about Jen. So it's just important that we're having those moments of solitude and serenity to just bring us back to center, bring us back to God and who He created us to be. So that way 20 years don't go by and you're just like, oh, I was just a mom and you didn't fulfill your purpose on this earth. So
Ooh, that's so good, Jenica. And I think to your point about, at 2 a.m., just being able to just sort of be your authentic Jenica self. I think the important part of that too is that you also have that support system as well. You do have your husband,
yeah.
but for other women, it may be, their parents, their mom, their dad, other friends, or their village, right? To help them, to support them in other areas of their life so they are able to get back to the core of who they are as women. So Aisha, what do you think about, remember we said we're going to give away some free game, ladies. So Aisha, what do you think is some good advice to the men in our lives who maybe want to help us find more balance and find that environment of serenity? What can they do to support us?
Well, I will give props to my husband on that. He is very good about letting me have my own personal time to disconnect. So as men out there, just make sure, even if you're not married, if you have a sister, if you have a mother that is still living, or a grandmother, or, a niece even, just make sure that woman is disconnecting. If you can take her on a trip out for ice cream, just hold yourself accountable and making sure that, they are taking that time to disconnect. Also, step up in the household and, take on some of those roles,
Oh my gosh, yeah.
we women do on a regular basis. It's like wash the dishes, do the laundry, play with the kids sometime, just so that woman can disconnect, and have maybe an hour or so to read her Bible, an hour or so to just step out and go for a walk. So things like that would definitely be helpful to the women from the men.
I agree with that. That's good strategy, good information, good game for the men. Again, like Miss Asia said, and even Miss Jenica, you have to just give us some space. It doesn't mean we're pushing you away and that we don't care about you, we don't love you. That doesn't change. It just means that we need a moment to debrief. We need a moment to, get all that stuff out so we can give you who we are, and what we want to be able to give to you, what we know that you want and need, and whatever, all the different areas that you want and need it. So having time away, whatever that away is, sitting in your backyard, if you have one, on your porch or on your balcony, whatever that is for you, fellas, give us that so that we can come back better for you and stronger for you. For our single women, learn to love yourself. Take yourself somewhere. A girl, look at it. Take yourself somewhere. Take yourself on a trip. Go get your own ice cream so that when the significant one comes along, you will know how to appreciate you and he will know how to appreciate you. And there won't be a struggle in doing that. Right, Ms. Kelda? Talk to
him. That's so good. I think the points about Serene that really resonated with me was solitude and silence. I'm an introvert anyway, so I can be by myself all the time and it's cool. But I've also embraced silence, right? Silencing a lot of the noise. There is a time to disconnect from the social media. There's a time to disconnect from tumbling down a rabbit hole of YouTube videos. For those who can relate, you do have to block out the noise so that God can speak to you and help you navigate your strategy. So yes, silence and solitude were certainly some standout points that Pastor Duma made when he discussed serenity. So ladies, this has been a blast. I've really enjoyed having this conversation with you. I hope that we were able to share a little bit of our hearts and some perspective with the viewers this morning. And just shout out to Pastors Duma and Emmeline for even giving us this opportunity, both us as well as the men. Thank you,
Yeah.
thank you, thank you. Crown Church is a place where you can grow, you can learn, and you can develop. This is not surface level teachings that we're getting. We're going deep. We're being introspective. We're looking internally to improve ourselves and our relationships. So if you've missed any part of the 2020 Summer Relationship Series, we encourage you to go back. All the videos are saved on our Facebook page and YouTube page. We encourage you to take a couple of days and just dive into each of this segments of the series. We know you're going to benefit greatly from it. So ladies, thank you so much for your time. I can't wait until the next one. And until then, let's keep transforming, ladies. Have a great morning, guys. Bye-bye.
Family, thank you so much for tuning into this broadcast. We pray that you are blessed by the conversation and the message. If this ministry has truly added value to your life, then we want you to prayerfully consider supporting financially. Listed on your screens are several ways that you can express your generosity. Thank you so much for any past, present, or future contribution that you're led to give. Allow me to also say thank you for joining us on the journey of transforming followers into leaders that impact, influence, and change the world. At Crown Church, all that we do is for His glory and His glory alone. Be blessed and have a great day.